yay! Oh yay! Welcome back to the Unsolicited Film Reviews podcast. I am I am Zack Miller, and he is Martin Cooke. And this is our third part in our three-part series about the history of America through film. And this time we're doing television. So we went all the way up to the financial crisis of 2008 last week, and we're winding the clock all the way back to pre 1619 ish and working our way back up to the present. So we're going to talk about 15 series, television series that basically do what we have been doing and telling the story of America for better or worse. And no box office report today, even though my number one pick, Toy Story 5, is absolutely killing it. but other than that, we're just going to get right into it because as we're recording this, the U.S. plays Turkey in a meaningless game, but still World Cup game in about an hour. So we're going to keep this one shorter than the other two because you guys weren't that into it. Well, I guess if you're watching us, you were, but those are about an hour and a half, and we've already discussed all the history and the politics behind all the time periods. So we're just gonna try to stick to the actual series and probably go off on a tangent here or there, but we try to keep it to a hard hour.
Yeah.
So let's just kick it off. And what's our first one here, Martin?
Right. So we're also going to be doing 15 TV shows, whereas we only did 10 movies. So the first one we're going to talk about is Roots. So this is a 1977 miniseries, and then there was a remake in 2016. So two basically the same story. It's a miniseries based on the book by Alex Haley. For anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a multi-generational story about slavery and sort of the personal and societal effects of slavery throughout the history of the United States. The initial story is with Kunta Kinte in Africa, this African man being captured and then brought to America. And then the story continues basically all the way up into the post-Reconstruction era or the post-war Reconstruction era. So it's really a very expansive series, even though it is only a mini series. The original was only 8 episodes long, and I can't remember how many episodes the 2016 version was, but yeah, it's basically about slavery and the whole institution of slavery throughout the formative years of the United States of America.
Right. And I had seen the original Roots maybe 20 years ago, but at least from what I could find, they were charging about $10 an episode down here on Prime, and that's just exorbitant.
Yeah.
And yeah, George Washington certainly wouldn't want to pay those kind of reparations. But the 2016 miniseries is free on Prime, and
Oh, it wasn't for me in Canada,
oh,
unfortunately.
see,
Yeah.
it's so weird how the differences are. But
Yeah.
the 2016 remake is a lot more historically accurate. It eliminates a lot of the white savior tropes that the original had, while also being more expensive, uh, glossy, less cheesy, and a lot more brutal as
Mm.
well. And LeVar Burton, who played Kunta Kinte in the original series, not only produced this version, but also made a cameo in the first episode. And anyway, it's the same general story. It's just a lot more grounded in reality. And I guess you can understand why, because Roots was kind of the kiddie pool
Mm.
of introducing white Americans to the horrors of slavery. I mean, everybody knew it happened and everybody was aware of it, but I guess nobody had actually seen the brutality of it on screens. But they also didn't want to turn people off because they wanted viewers.
Yeah.
So they kind of like tiptoed their way around certain aspects. Like you didn't want to see like action the scars that came from the whippings. You can see the whippings, but Anyway, it's just a worthwhile tale to tell, and the remake is also multi-generational. And another thing is it also the remake also incorporates the fact that the Africans were also complicit in the slave trade. It wasn't just like
Mhm.
white people came over, kidnapped everybody, and brought them back here to work the fields. They were bought and sold intertribally,
Mhm.
and so of course it wound up being a race thing, but the Africans were also uh just as willing to sell their own people for the right price.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I mean, not to get too much into the history of it, obviously, slavery has existed in almost every civilization. The difference with the Atlantic slave trade and slavery in the United States is that it was specifically based on race.
Right.
That hadn't been a feature of slavery throughout history. Yeah, the only one I've actually seen is the original. I haven't seen the remake, but it makes sense that it would be updated for all the reasons you said. But it's also hard to overstate just the importance of the original. I mean, 1977, it
Mm.
aired on TV, so we're talking monoculture, only three TV stations. This was watched by almost everybody, and as you said, for a large portion of the United States and in Canada as well, and in other places where it was shown, this was kind of people's first introduction to what slavery was really all about. So, absolutely essential miniseries.
Totally. And then next up, we have John Adams, which was a 2008 miniseries by HBO. And this is probably my favorite miniseries of all time. And I know when we were talking about miniseries a couple months ago on this show, we discussed John Adams
Mhm.
at length. But it's funny because while John Adams is definitely one of the most important founding fathers, he was always kind of swept under the rug when you talk about the likes of the George Washingtons, the James Madisons, the Thomas Jeffersons. Be and I don't really know why that was, and I guess people found him to be boring. But if you watch
Yeah,
this
probably
this
wasn't as good a
miniseries,
self-promoter as Jefferson, that's for sure.
yeah, I mean, yeah, Jefferson was a master at false humility. That's for damn sure. And I think Washington was pretty much the same. But anyway, Paul Giamatti plays John Adams, and Laura Linney plays Abigail Adams, who is just a tour de force. One of the Abigail and and Laura Linney were both a tour de force because Abigail Adams was like the first lady to really have an impact on the nation, where the Martha Washington was basically just in the back seat. But if you look at the correspondences between John Adams and Abigail Adams, and she was giving him all the best advice like all the time. So she was like the power behind the power, if you will. And just great cast top to bottom. Tom Wilkinson played Benjamin Franklin. Stephen Delane, aka Stannis Baratheon from Game of Thrones, was Thomas Jefferson. And it's just another very interesting take on the founding legend of America. And I made the trip to Monticello with the family, Jefferson's home, and the tour theme was the friendship between John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, the friendship, the rivalry, and then the friendship again. And it was just really cool to come back and watch this miniseries after actually being
Oh,
to the
cool. Yeah.
home, actually going to the home of one of these guys. And man, the creators, Tom Hanks was an executive producer, but yeah, they fucking nailed it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd say it's my favorite of miniseries of all time, but it is definitely up there for me as well. And I really enjoy this. And as you say, John Adams maybe isn't sort of as iconic in the cultural zeitgeist as a few of those other founding fathers, but he was such a great choice for a document or not a documentary for a miniseries
Hmm.
about the origins of the United States, just because in part, Adams is from Boston. He was there for a lot of the things that were taking place. And so it's all right there around him. And then obviously he was involved in all the discussions and first vice president, all this kind of stuff. So just an incredibly well done series and a great subject choice for the time period. All right, next up, we've got a similar time period again. We've got Turn, Washington Spies. This was an AMC series that ran for 4 seasons from 2014 to 2017, and it focuses on the Culper Ring, which is a group of spies that sought to help out the revolutionaries against the British. Basically, this is one of the only ones on this episode that I haven't actually had a chance to see. So why don't you take it away and speak to this one?
Sure. Yeah, I love this series, and anybody that gets a chance to watch it was so underrated back in its time because AMC had Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and so they were like really just up there with HBO as far as prestige TV at the time. But for some reason, this just didn't get the ratings that I think it deserved. It was originally just called Turn, and I think that was a terrible name for a series. So after it was over, they switched the name to Turn: Washington Spies.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think it's found a new following after the fact,
Yeah.
and you can still make money that way, but not the actors or the producers or anything. But yeah, it stars Jamie Bell as the original, basically founder of American espionage, and uh, mm, yeah, he's in the Trenton area in Pennsylvania, which was hot, as we talked about in episode 1 of this series, in the Crossing, which was
Yeah.
just a hotbed and a real turning point, which is why they called the series Turn. So I mean, it makes sense after you watch it, but it's not gonna like draw you in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just so cool seeing how like people invented invisible ink or vanishing ink and stuff like that, and just like the early days of you know American underdogs trying kind of underhanded but necessary tactics to achieve their goals in this war. So I would absolutely recommend it to anybody, and it carries out through the revolution, and there is some fantastic acting and writing throughout those 4 seasons.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely one that I do want to try to watch. And I suppose Turn also maybe because they're trying to turn people against the British.
Hmm.
Maybe that's another reason they chose that name. But yeah, it probably needed the explanation of Washington spies
Yeah,
to gain an audience.
yeah. I mean, Americans love a Washington story, so
And a costume, apparently.
obviously, I mean, can't deny this hat.
And the epaulets. Gotta love those epaulets.
Oh yeah, thank you. Those were hard to fasten, especially if you're not used to having a manservant to dress you. Then we skip way ahead to the Transcontinental Railroad in the 2011 series Hell on Wheels, which stars Anson Mount from the Britney Spears hit Crossroads fame. I think it's one of the only other things. It was definitely his breakout, but anyway, it has Cole Meany, who's always awesome. Common, who is sneakily just a phenomenal actor, and goes just down the list. And it's about this ex soldier who is just like most hardworking people trying to find their way in that time period, just working on the railroad all the live long day. and it takes everything into account from race relations, not only with white and black people, but with black people and Native Americans and Irish, which was a definitely a new insert into this culture at the time, Chinese, and just a whole hodgepodge of people who had completely different cultures, completely different languages, and how they were all just trying to make their way in a extremely harsh Western frontier world.
Yeah. Yeah, and running up against indigenous people that obviously resented their incursions into the areas, and and sort of also as we mentioned in the first episode when we talked about 410 to Yuma, this is coming just on the heels of this 310. Yeah, sorry. This is coming on the heels of the Civil War, so a lot of these guys have all that stuff, and right from the beginning, there's still some scores that they're trying to settle from things that had taken place in the Civil War. And so, yeah, this is a great series about that time period and all those things you talked about, and just the expansion of the U.S. at this time. And so these are the guys, this isn't obviously there are some people who are making some money. Some of those characters are in there, Cole Meany's character and everything else. But a lot of the series is just about the guys doing the grunt work to kind of build the United States. And as you say, all these different kinds of people coming together to do it. Very interesting series.
Yeah, it ran for 5 seasons,
Right.
and
I actually never finished. I don't think I ever saw all 5 seasons of it.
okay. It didn't it kind of ended on a poor note. Like the writing got worse as the series went on.
Mm.
But the first 3 seasons I thought were absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, the all the tensions brewing between all these different factions, like Anson Mount plays this guy called Cullen Bohannon, which is just a great Southern name, Cullen Bohannon. Yeah, he's an
Yeah.
ex-Confederate, and his wife was killed by a Union soldier, and he's out for revenge. So it has that subplot, and so that's like relatable. And
But he's
yeah,
Southern, but he had freed his slaves before the war began. So he was a slave owner, but he's also very sympathetic to the yeah, very interesting character.
mhm. And yeah, it's like I feel like Taylor Sheridan wishes he wrote this series
Mm,
almost, but
actually, yeah, totally.
but yeah, yeah. One of my favorite series about just the railroad culture. I mean, it was where I first found out about the whole concept of the company store,
Mhm.
where you're like paid in wooden nickels that they're only redeemable at this store that's also owned by the railroad. So it's basically indentured servitude where you're not really going to advance or get any farther than your station, even though that was the promise once they went out there. So yeah, a whole lot of interesting stuff about Hell on Wheels.
Yeah. All right, the next series is one where you might have had a manservant, or I suppose been a manservant, and that is the Gilded Age. So this is an ongoing. This is the most recent of our series because it's an ongoing HBO series that has had 3 seasons, but has been renewed for a fourth. The fourth season is maybe coming out by the end of this year. It's set in New York in the 1880s, and it's kind of a typical upstairs downstairs drama from Julian Fellows, who has been is the master of that kind of drama with Downton Abbey from England a few years earlier. But this series basically is just yeah, it's all about the people living the society high life in New York City, but kind of all the backstabbing and the ups and downs. Like it for some of those guys, they're taking big gambles. It doesn't take much for them to just lose it all. And there's so much corruption and all that kind of stuff. Again, more railroad shenanigans going on in this series. But then it's also about the other side of that, the people who are working for the upper class. And then there's a whole interesting set of characters who are blacks, and some of them are, people who have been born free, and their interaction with people who have been recently freed. And, obviously there's some sort of, there's that society also isn't immune to prejudices and everything as well. And
Yeah.
so just some very interesting storytelling about what society was like as America was trying to kind of find its footing, and really kind of up until maybe almost recently at the height of the big divide between rich and poor in the
Mm.
United States.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the whole the divisiveness within the black community, because I mean nobody's immune to tribalism, no matter how much you are like the smallest difference, if you're petty enough,
Yeah.
will always divide you. Because yeah, as you said, there's there's almost a class divide between the recently freed black people and the people like who, as you said, were born free. And I think that's such an interesting wrinkle that not a lot of people
Mhm.
know about. And Julian Fellows is so well researched in whatever he does that while Downton Abbey and The Gilded Age are kind of soap opera-y, they're so, again, with just well grounded in history, and the characters are so rich and
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
that it's one of my favorite ongoing series right now. Like I haven't missed
Agreed.
an episode,
Yeah.
and I don't plan to. I mean, Carrie Coon and oh God, what's the Morgan Spector, Carrie Coon and Morgan Spector play like the two main heads of the household,
Mm.
and they're amazing, their interactions with one another. But the entire cast from top
But
down
yeah,
is
and they're also again the sort of divide. They're the nouveau riche, right? They're the
yes,
ones who've
yes.
just become rich, and then you got the older families like the Astors who have been around and don't really quite want to accept them into society and stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, the dynamics between all of those aspects from top down are just very well done. And yeah, yeah, Julian Fellows is the master of the upstairs downstairs
Yeah,
drama.
yeah.
So then we're moving ahead all the way to Prohibition, which we discussed at length last week in the Untouchables, or yeah, last week in the Untouchables. And we're going to be talking about Boardwalk Empire, produced by Martin Scorsese, uh, starring, created by Terrence Winter too,
Mm.
and Steve Buscemi, Michael Pitt, Kelly MacDonald, Michael Shannon, Shea Wiggum, oh, and Michael K. Williams too, all the way down. And again, it's such a rich series, and that's what I love about prestige TV in the modern era, where you don't have to tell a story in 2 hours. You can really dig down into, especially if you're telling a historical story, you can dig down into every little nook and cranny of society at any given point, from, and in this case all the way from Steve Buscemi, who plays Nucky Thompson, who's a fictionalized version. So I mean, this isn't a straightforward telling of history, but it does encapsulate just definitely the vibe of Prohibition era America. And so it has everybody from Al Capone down to like his I forgot. Chalky. Chalky White is the guy
Mm.
who Michael
Yeah,
Caine
yeah.
plays. And
Yeah.
so it's, again, it tells a story of a bunch of immigrants as well. Like the Irish are still treated as second class citizens even as late as the 30s, and just the crime wave that Prohibition wrought is just unbelievable. Because again, as we talked about last week, everybody thought they were doing the right thing by outlawing alcohol, but Americans love a drink just as much as the Europeans do. And you Canadians and the people in England were more than willing to supply us.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, it just really empowered the gangsters and the people who could control the underground. I mean, this series was kind of right smack dab in the middle of the most recent golden age of television, when HBO and AMC and Showtime and all these great networks were just almost giving carte blanche to creators to just create great things. And we ended up with so many great series over about a 15 to 20 year span. And this was right in the middle of it. Just fantastic stuff. And it's interesting too that this, I mean, it was based very loosely based on a nonfiction book. But interesting that this was the choice they made to base it on this and set it in Atlantic City, because it seems that most of the prohibition stories that you know are, either in New York or Chicago or something like that. But setting this in Atlantic City with the main character being this crime boss, but also just kind of like a low level politician in a way.
Mhm.
Like, it just very interesting choice and gives us a whole different perspective on prohibition that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it finally gave Steve Buscemi, who's a phenomenal actor, a chance at being a leading man,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he definitely doesn't have the leading man looks. He'd be the first to admit that, but he's fantastic in everything he does. And while I was skeptical about the casting when I first saw this, I remember being like, "Really, Steve Buscemi is a like
Mhm.
politician slash gangster?" But no, he fucking nailed it.
Yeah, yeah, it did. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is a totally different kind of show, and that's Hogan's Heroes. This is a comedy that ran for 6 seasons between 1965 and 1971. And yeah, so it was a network sitcom, basically. And for those of you who don't know, it's a sitcom set in a German prisoner of war camp during World War II. So now we're moving into World War II. But basically, yeah, so it's just all about the shenanigans of these prisoners and the things they get up to torment their tormentors. So yeah, Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
I have to admit, this is the only other one. I've seen clips of like many, many clips. I'm not sure that I've ever watched like a full season of Hogan's Heroes.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't seen every single episode, but it's a you know 70s sitcom. So if you see one episode, the basically you've seen
Right.
them all. So
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the formula that they had to go. It wasn't like there was a lot of character development throughout. But yeah, and again throughout this series, we're trying to avoid out and out war stuff. So because that could be its another entirely other series.
Mhm.
So I mean, we could have done like Band of Brothers or something like that for World War II. But so this is the brainchild of Albert S. Ruddy, who in a very interesting film history twist would go on to produce The Godfather. He was the driving force behind it along with Robert Evans. So it goes from Hogan's Heroes to The Godfather. But anyway, specifically to this series, to make Nazis and a prisoner of war camp funny is a feat
Mhm.
in and of itself. And there are so many funny characters. The bumbling Nazi captain of the camp who just like wants to be liked by his own prisoners and of course, there's the busty secretary and uh just I, it's a procedural comedy, so there's not a whole lot to say about this other than it was crazy how they were able to pull off a Nazi POW camp being a comedy, and not just a comedy, a classic comedy that everybody of the age still remembers. We used to have I don't even know if it still exists, but I would watch Nickelodeon during the day, which would have all the like the kids' cartoons, and then they'd have Nick at Night that would
Mhm.
show like Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, etc., and I Love Lucy, and like introduce me to all those old series. Did you guys have anything like that?
Um, I don't remember that specifically, but
Mm.
we definitely had uh, periods of time on different television channels that would just show old shows all the time.
Mm.
I don't remember Nick at Night specifically.
Okay. So after talking Prohibition and World War II, I think it's time for a bit of a drink break.
Yeah.
And I just found out a few days ago that the Bloody Mary is an American invention. And got this sweet America 250 glass that has a musket ball in
Oh,
it.
cool.
Usually I would make this in a bigger glass, but I had to showcase this before we ended this series for America 250. So everybody has a different recipe for a Bloody Mary, but the main
Yeah.
ingredients are basically Clamato juice and vodka, and then a whole bunch of different spices. And again, everybody has a different recipe, whether you're it doesn't like whether you're from the West Coast, East Coast, South. Like I've seen so many renditions of the Bloody Mary. Some people make an entire meal out of Bloody Mary, like they'll have shrimp and
Yeah.
all kinds of different seafood in it. But so I'll just go ahead and walk you through my ingredients, and then Martin, you can go ahead while I'm making it. So I do 2 ounces of vodka, ice, obviously, celery stick. Um, Now this is definitely a regional thing, but I put Old Bay seasoning in it, which is what you usually put on seafood like crabs and shrimp and things. This is my favorite Bloody Mary mix. It's called Zing Zang. I've been using it for years, and it's the closest thing to not just making it from scratch because it still has a little bit of spice to it. Has some pepper in it. Well, couple dashes of Tabasco. Um, one dash of Worcestershire sauce,
Yeah.
and then I garnish it with 2 green olives. I already put the celery in it, and I'm gonna just throw some bacon in there to make it more American. So, what do you got,
Nice.
Martin?
So yeah, so I actually don't have that many ingredients. Mine is just going to be very simple. So I've just got, yeah, obviously vodka, a little bit of hot sauce that I'm putting in there. It's actually my own hot sauce that I make. Um, and then yeah, normally I would put some Worcester sauce, some Worcestershire sauce in there, and uh, and some other things, and then usually I want to rim the edge of the glass with a nice spice. And normally what I'd go for is there's an extra spicy Mott's Clamato. I don't know if that's a Canadian thing or if you guys got that down there, but I did not find the extra spices, so I've just got the original. And then I'm just going to put in just a slice of jalapeno, and then a little a hot jerky thing.
You put a Slim Jim in there or
That's yeah.
something?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, for
wow.
sure.
Wow. Okay. That's a first. Like I said, everybody has their own recipe. That's
Everybody
interesting.
definitely has their own. Yeah.
So, what spice do you usually rim it with? You just said spice.
There's a specific like Caesar spice. Now in Canada, because I think actually Clamato is a Canadian invention.
Hmm.
And so so I think we were the first ones who started using Clamato instead of just tomato juice.
Hmm.
And and so because of that, and we called them Caesars for some reason. And so there's like specific Caesar spice and everything
Interesting. Okay.
to go along. So all right, so yeah, put this that in there. And you can also stir it up a little bit with the salt. And that's a spicy hot one. And then oh yeah, it's my piece of jalapeno. So just throw it in there because I add a little extra spice. There we go. Oh, whoops. I forgot to put my ice cubes in there. That was dumb.
All right. So while you're doing that, I'll just move on to the 1960s, and what other series encapsulates the 1960s better than Mad Men? I mean,
Yeah.
this was an obvious choice. Of course, it was another AMC series created by Matthew Weiner and starring John Hamm as the iconic Don Draper, who's one of the best television characters of all time. For all his faults, but I mean, just a phenomenal anti-hero. And Elizabeth Moss is Peggy Olson, and January Jones, like all the way down to oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Who plays the daughter? Kirsten Shipka.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as Sally Draper, who would go on to be a great actress in her own right.
Yeah.
But Jared Harris, John Slattery,
Yeah.
just amazing casting, amazing writing, and it's of course all about
Christina
the
Hendricks. Yeah.
yeah, all across. It's all about the dog eat dog world of ad men in the 1960s on Madison Avenue, and how the excesses of the lifestyle, the three martini lunches, the never being faithful to your wife, and just not just that though, but it also showed the difference between the late, because I believe the very first episode was in 1960 and the very last episode was in 1970, so it just bookended the 60s perfectly, and all the changing cultures and how those kind of titans of industry were being left behind in the face of counterculture, and all the just yeah, the backlash against tradition.
Yeah, it's one of the, I'd say easily one of the five best series of all time. I'd probably have it in my top three. I can't remember
Mm.
where I had it when we did our series last year. And the reason is that, as you say, it's ostensibly about the the ad men of Madison Avenue, but it's really so much more than that. It's all about the societal changes. And so you've got, as you said, there's the counterculture, but there's you go from the first episode, especially in the first episode of the first season, and you've got Peggy going to a place to be a secretary, and that's just what the jobs were for women, and she has to kind of find her own way. So it's about women gaining empowerment. It's about racial divisions and changes in the 60s. It's about how it's about suburban culture, right? I mean, these are, as that's coming up, these are guys who have their families out in the suburbs, but work in the city and travel back and forth. And then, some of the political changes and everything else. It's just really about those monumental shifts in American culture throughout the 60s. And so that's why, and at the center of it is, as you say, one of the greatest characters in television history. So that's why it's such an incredible show.
Yeah, yeah. Who could say more than that?
All right, next up, we've got The Americans. So this is a Cold War spy drama that ran for 6 seasons on FX, a a network we haven't really talked about yet, but who also it kind of fit right in there with a whole bunch of very interesting shows around this time. And it ran from 2013 to 2018. And basically, what it is about is a planted family of Russian spies living in the US. So they're sort of sleeper agents who, and this is based on actual people who did this during the Cold War, Russians who would come and basically live entire lives in the US. And they would be feeding information back to Russia, but also could be activated for other things at various times. But it's a fascinating drama because of you live somewhere long enough, you're going to start getting ingrained in the culture, and your family is going to start feeling part of it, and so that all about the torn loyalties and just the real complex nature of what ideology and belief and nationalism meant during the Cold War. Just an excellent series.
Yeah, and especially like uh Matthew Rhys and Kerry Russell were both
Hmm.
incredible as the two Russian agents.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially once you start having kids,
Yeah.
it's like how do you choose between a country who haven't seen in 20, 30 years
And your kids have
and
never seen.
yeah, yeah, your kids
Yeah.
and your kids don't even know what you are or what you're doing
Right.
until like very much later that the daughter finds out. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, it's just a wild story and so well told. Again, the advantage of series is that you can dive in and have all of these incredible character arcs that just weren't possible earlier, like pre 90s, I would say, until the rise of prestige TV, where it was just all about the monoculture and just getting viewers rather than taking people on a journey
Yeah.
with you. And yeah, I love this series. It's definitely in my top 10 over the past couple like decade or so. And yeah, it's so interesting the kind of the juxtaposition between them being Russian agents and them also trying to assimilate without like trying to assimilate without actually feeling like they're assimilating. Like it's an impossible
Yeah.
task. I mean, it really is just like and then the Soviet hubris thinking that their ideology would prevail
Yeah.
in this environment in the 80s, especially in the 80s when America was just like on an upswing, especially well at least like white suburban America was. But yeah, just well told and they stuck the landing too, which is rare for series
Mm. Hmm.
and without spoiling because it's still relatively recent and it didn't really get that high ratings as well. It wasn't like a Mad Men or um even a Gilded Age, which is doing very well.
Yeah,
So
it was popular, but it wasn't a juggernaut. And maybe that's partly because it was on FX instead of like HBO or something. Although
right.
FX and AMC, you would think would have been comparable. But anyway.
Yeah. So next up we have The Wire. Of course, American crime drama and created by David Simon and man, one of the top three. Just I know art is subjective, but I think objectively this has to be like one of the top five series ever made. Just
Yeah.
through the acting, the writing, and especially for its time because it did come out in 2002, which is a couple years after The Sopranos debuted, but still just the, explores the criminal underworld of Baltimore. But not just that. Again, because you have all this time to tell a story. It's not just the criminal underworld, it's the cops, the politicians. I mean, everyone from Carcetti to Omar. Like it's
Mhm.
it just tells you how corrupt a big city can be in the modern age and how it's a pretty nihilistic series to be honest, but
Yes, it is.
it's also very realistic because it does seem kind of hopeless about how you're gonna come in and clean up the streets of a city like Baltimore, which is the still today the murder capital of America.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, for my money, this is the greatest show of all time. And I've rewatched it a bunch of times. And for all the reasons that you just said, it's not just about the characters, although it does have some of the greatest characters in television history. I mean, Omar and the Bunk and Bubbles and
Mm,
Stringer Bell and like all these just amazing characters, right? McNulty. Uh,
yeah,
it's so it does have all these incredible characters and these very complex plots, but it's also just about the decay of the American city. And as you say, yeah, a bit nihilistic. It's really just showing just how hard it is to change things for all that, just all the different competing interests just make real fundamental change so difficult. And the one, one of the aspects you didn't even mention was the education system.
Oh,
And
true.
for,
Yep.
for my money, the best season of the show was season 4, which really focused on the education system. So just an incredible show, and really got to the heart of kind of the problems. But it was very negative, but there was also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There were, some really funny moments in this show too. And so, yeah, just an absolutely incredible exploration of the American city.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the education and season four because each season focused on a different aspect. While there were similar characters throughout each season, each season focused on another institution that was crumbling.
Yeah. Okay, next up, we've got a totally different kind of show, also set in a city, this time New York, and this is Sex in the City. So this was an HBO series. This was in the early days of HBO's heyday. It ran for 6 seasons from 1998 to 2004. It was one of their first big hits. And then since then, we've had two movies and a sequel series as well, which we don't really need to talk about. It was based on a newspaper column and then a book by Candace Bushnell, who's sort of the creator of the series. And it basically follows four modern women living their lives in New York City, in the big city. And that includes them being very upfront and open about their sexuality, about all the things they're going through, about their professions, about the choices that each of them make in terms of where they fit in society in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it was obviously a monster hit. It's one I never actually watched the whole thing. I will admit.
Good for you.
Yeah, I watched the first. I definitely watched the first season. I can't remember if I watched the second season, and then I watched the one movie. I never bothered watching the second movie or the because it was a big deal. It wasn't really my kind of show, but it was a big deal for a reason that it really was a spotlight on that segment of society, I guess.
Yeah, back in the day, I when I can't believe this is a memory that's it's still in my mind, but back when Netflix was doing hard copy DVDs in the mail, I
Man.
I watched every single episode of the original series
Holy shit.
because I thought they would I was probably 17, 18 at the time. I thought it would give me some kind of like secret code or insight into the female
Read with the
brain.
women. That's funny.
Yeah, that I could then use to my own advantage. Uh didn't really work out that way, but and then especially in recent years, I've realized that the showrunner Darren Star is basically just a misogynist gay dude, and so he didn't really have any insight into into the female brain, and I hate watched the and just like that
Oh, you
series
did. Oh man.
for like 3 or 4 episodes, but after that I was like, I mean, top to bottom, this is not a good show, but it's just not like
No.
the writing is horrible. The characters are ridiculous and hypocritical and all kinds of different stuff. But it was so groundbreaking for the time in that it wasn't like Friends where it was three guys, three girls, and almost every sitcom you had to have uh like a mix of genders or like and it is still for white women
Yeah,
and for
definitely.
straight white women, even though and just like that just tried to like it just overwoke itself to death. Like everybody was trans and Cynthia Nixon turned into lesbian, like just out of nowhere, and like all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I mean Cynthia Nixon in real life is, so
Yes, yes,
that's
yes,
probably
yes.
why she agreed to come back. She's like, if I can only, if the character can be like me.
Yeah. So it's not good. I wouldn't really. I might recommend just giving it a watch just to see, just for like cultural reference, if you're interested in that kind of thing. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have much to say about Sex in the City. Popularized the Cosmo though.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So next up we have Homeland. It's a Showtime series. Uh, And this is just all about the war on terror and the effect it had. But unlike American Sniper and Vice that we talked about last week, this is much more of the intelligence game,
Mhm.
the CIA and their whole interplay and all the conflicts of interest and the way that it's so easy for an agent to become jaded because like again, like what the hell are we doing this for? Why are we killing all these people? And at the end of the day, it was all just to, you know, enrich Halliburton and and BlackRock and companies like that. But super well acted by Claire
Yeah.
Danes and Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis is a soldier, American soldier who got captured and flipped by the Taliban, who was came back as a sleeper agent and got lauded as a hero because he was a prisoner of war, and of course, who wouldn't applaud that, especially Americans who love to wave the flag. And it was a really good series until season 3, and then it just completely fell off. But those first couple seasons were really revolutionary and amazingly well done.
Yeah, it definitely lost its way as a series, but it's interesting because it's a series that, as you say, was very complicated in how it looked at the issues in terms of, yeah, the main character gets, and a bunch of the characters get very jaded about what's going on and the conflicts and the what's really behind it all and all that kind of stuff. But the series itself exists in such an interesting time when there was really just a lot of, after 9/11 and everything, there's just a lot of paranoia about terrorists around every corner. And so there is kind of that behind the whole series, as that's what probably, that's basically what sparked the series, even though the series itself rose above that a little bit and was a much more nuanced look at it all. But it's just a very interesting moment in time of, yeah, of the war on terror and that era of American history.
Yeah, and Damian Lewis won an Emmy for season 1, and I think
Mm.
to win an Emmy back then, when you're up against the likes of Bryan Cranston and John Hamm every year, Walter White and Don Draper respectively, was quite the achievement.
Yeah.
I think people just got sick of nominating those two every
Yeah,
year,
probably.
even though they did deserve it.
Yeah. All right, next up, we're going to switch gears entirely again, and we're going to talk about Silicon Valley. So this was another HBO. I mean, yeah, HBO is they were the kings, still are. This is an HBO comedy. This is a modern sitcom. I guess you wouldn't really call it a sitcom. It's definitely not a three-camera sitcom.
No,
Uh,
but
but yeah,
still a
it's a
sitcom.
sitcom
Yeah.
basically. But it's an HBO comedy from Mike Judge, who people know from a few other things. It ran for 6 seasons from 2014 to 2019, and basically it follows a group of tech developers as they try to rise up in the cutthroat world of Silicon Valley. And it's very good at having all the tech speak without being something that's opaque. It's easy to get in because you like the characters. And so it has all that stuff, but then it's also just taking the piss out of the entire culture, the whole
Yeah.
Silicon Valley culture, and just the like the guys who are living for the money, the guys who have got their gurus and think that they're smarter than they are, and all this kind of stuff, and just the ridiculous lifestyles and all these, these people with absolutely zero communication skills who have to try to be the fronts of these multi-million dollar companies. It's yeah, it's just a hilarious show, and just one of HBO's best comedies, I would say.
Yeah, it was released in 2014, which is obviously way after social media became a thing, but it definitely found its place in the zeitgeist because uh it was just such a great send up of everything that was going on at the time, and to a bit of a lesser extent still going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you give all of these like incel nerds billions of dollars and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's wild. But and of course every sitcom just comes down to the chemistry between the actors and the writing. Those are the two key
Yeah.
ingredients to any successful sitcom. But yeah, everybody from Thomas Middleditch to TJ Miller, Kumail Nanjiani. That's the first time I think I've seen him on screen, and his interplay with Martin Starr,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like have all these guys who are just geniuses, but they're sequestered in this like this house where they're all forced to be roommates and forced to work together, but at the same time they have such competing personalities but one common goal. And yeah, it was just an example of like the absurdity of this whole venture, I
The,
guess.
the funny thing though is that even though it was clearly making fun of it all, they got so many cameos on this show.
Mm,
Like
mm.
everybody from Elon Musk to like all these guys, all these big tech guys made cameos on this show. Even that, maybe they were in on the joke, but sometimes I'm not entirely sure that they were. But just and obviously, a lot of call outs to real companies, but then sort of fictionalized, hilarious versions of the companies like Hooli. This is,
Yeah,
is their
yeah.
big Google thing, but they do also reference Sergey Brin and stuff. So yeah, just a fantastic series.
And then, well, all the rest of these series we're going to be talking about are HBO series.
Yes.
And the next one is Euphoria. And my little note I had for this is just the kids are fucked. It's
Yeah.
created by Sam Levinson. Only ran for 3 seasons. The third one just ended, and the third season isn't even remotely related to the first two. It was hot garbage. I
Yeah, I
don't know.
haven't watched the third season yet,
Don't.
and
It's not
maybe I
worth your
won't.
time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really, really, really dumb.
Yeah.
And but I mean the gap between season 2 and 3 was like 5 years because you have
Yes.
all these Oscar nominated slash super famous actors: Zendaya, Sydney Sweeney, Jacob Elordi,
Yeah.
Coleman Domingo. Just I mean the cast that Sam Levinson was able to procure before they were huge names is probably unprecedented. Anyway, it's about well, at least the first 2 seasons were just about high school kids and trying to navigate social life in the late well, this came out in 2018, so just between the late 29 the late 20 teens into the early 2020s. And it's basically a psychological drama. I mean, there's a whole bunch of just drug addiction, sex, and abuse, and closeted gay people. It deals with trans issues. I mean, it covers the entire gamut of what the culture was especially obsessed with back then.
Yeah, and it's just a show that, as you say, it's just all the things that are thrown at kids these days that they're dealing with. Now, in the show, there are obviously some parents, but there's a lot of kind of absentee parental figures
Yeah,
in this show because kids are
yeah.
kind of doing their own thing for most of the time. But it's the pressure, the social pressures, but also social media pressures. It's the exposure to absolutely everything. How easy it is for kids to get drugs, to start an OnlyFans or a webcast or whatever. Yeah, I guess OnlyFans is the most recent
Yeah.
season, but that probably duplicates that storyline from the first season where the one girl starts a chat
Oh
room
yeah, yeah.
thing. So yeah, it's just all that kind of stuff that's being thrown at kids and how kids can navigate it, or in the case of this show, just not really navigate it and
Mm.
just totally fuck themselves up.
Yeah,
And so
so definitely don't watch the third season though.
okay, I'll
And
stay away
lastly,
from it
what do we
then.
got?
Yeah, so lastly, we've got another fun show. And this is Succession, which is another HBO series from Jesse Armstrong. And this one also started in 2018, ran for 4 seasons, finished up 2023. And this is basically a series of about the Roy family, just about the uber rich and how very different they are and from the rest of us in many ways, although in terms of the lives they lead, but in terms of all that, like the jealousies and the insecurities and all that other kind of stuff, they're just as fucked up in many ways, many much more fucked up than the rest of us.
Totally.
And but it's about kind of the damage that these guys can do, being such pathetic personal figures in charge of so much power and so much money.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's a fantastic summary. Yeah, the Roys are not so loosely based on
Yeah.
the Murdochs who founded Fox News. And I mean they really never tried to hide that. And the funny thing is it was produced by Will Ferrell and Adam McKay, who also did Vice and The Big Short. So while this doesn't have, I mean there are a lot of hilarious moments in Succession, but it's
Yes.
definitely not a
No.
comedy.
No.
And yeah, it's so Shakespearean and like the family dynamic, and that was obviously intentional as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, it just shows the excesses of capitalism once again. The influence that the fourth estate, aka the media, has, which is dwindling, which is good because
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
the
But
rise
the
the
show also talked about the transition in media and how, traditional media is dying, but the people who have been able to take advantage of that change and still stay on top, uh,
right.
yeah, have
Yeah.
obviously
I
still
mean
maintained power.
Brian Cox, powerhouse, Jeremy Strong, powerhouse, Kieran
Yes.
Culkin, like all the way down. It's just so well acted, so well written, and yeah, it basically leads us to where we are today, and who knows where we're going next. It doesn't
Yeah.
seem that great, but
No, but
I
it's
tend
such a good show. I mean, I've said this before, but the show really doesn't have a single redeeming character. The first season you think, oh, maybe um what's his name? The cousin Greg is going to be somewhat of a redeeming character. But by the end, he's just as much as a as the rest of them. And so for a show that doesn't really have anybody that you can kind of latch on to as the audience, or latch on to morally or anything, or cheer for, it is still absolutely compelling. And that's just a testament to just how incredibly well written it was, how well
Mhm.
made, how well acted. It's just a fantastic series.
Yeah, I would say like the only thing that even resembles a moral compass is Logan Roy's brother, and I always forget
Mm,
this actor's name. Do you recall it off the top of your head? Like the tall guy with the
the guy from Babe. Yeah, why can't I think of his name? Shoot. Yeah. Uh,
anyway,
yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. He's
he's a
only
tertiary.
James Cromwell. Uh,
Yes. Okay, yeah,
he's
but he's
only
a
in it. He's not in it that much.
yeah, he's totally a tertiary character.
Yeah.
So Yeah, and uh but yeah, as far as the main cast, yeah, there's nobody you can root for. They're all just horrible people. So yeah, that's the history of America through television, and winding up just in time because we got 5 minutes till kickoff in the World Cup game of USA versus Turkey, and yeah, got almost done with my Bloody Mary,
Yeah, me
the
too.
musket ball, and the highball glass, and it's been a pleasure doing this with you, Martin.
Absolutely.
I thought I'd have to twist your arm to do a three-part episode on the 250th anniversary of a country that you're not a native of. But
Yeah, well, it's 250th anniversary.
yeah,
So it's worth it. And it's all interesting stuff. And we've talked about some great movies and TV series. So
awesome. So yeah, I'm glad you came along for the ride. So yep, I'm Zach Miller. He's Martin Cooke. I have no idea when our next show is going to be or what it's about. I think we might do a House of the Dragon recap in like maybe 2 or 3 weeks and do a half season recap or a full season recap. Um, uh, First episode's off to a great start, though. I'll tell you that. So I can direct you to that. We'll see you next time on Unsolicited Film Reviews. I'm Zach Miller. He is Martin Cooke. If you live in America, hope you're celebrating. Hope you're cooking out, having fun, blowing shit up safely.
bye,
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
everyone.